The Dallas Cowboys could be without as many as 4 offensive linemen on Sunday. We'll tell you how they can still get a win next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move, and Be Moved. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we are previewing the Cowboys Week 5 matchup against the New York Jets. We're going to give our predictions at the end of the show. We'll talk about how they can stop the run with Justin Fields and Breece Hall. We're going to talk about some offensive line injuries. But I want to start with this, Landon. It's a Week 5 game. There's never such thing as a must-win Week 5 game. But this is about as close as you'll get if you're the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that if you have hopes for the playoffs and especially looking at around the rest of the NFC East and where you are, and I think you've got, as we talked about in a couple other of these shows, is that you've got a tough schedule coming up, and you've got to find some wins that you may not be able to find later. So you're kind of like the squirrel collecting the nuts for the winter, right? You got to store those wins because it may be a very cold winter for Cowboys football. And if you want to, be able to pull a couple upsets to try to get into the playoffs, you need to kind of to get the low hanging fruit. You need, I'm using too many metaphors here. You need to find a way to get these easy wins to even get yourself in a position to pull an upset or two later on to get yourself into the playoffs.
And it's also like if you lose to the Jets on the road, and I hate to be this about the Jets, but it's kind of like, yeah, you're getting up for the big games against the Eagles and Packers, but if you're losing road games to the Jets and Bears, it's kind of a big deal. But let's talk about the Cowboys' offensive line, because as of the practice on Thursday, we have not seen Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe is on the injured reserve list. Tyler Booker is dealing with a high ankle injury. That means you can have 4 new starters on the offensive line. How in the world can the Cowboys overcome that?
It's going to be tough. First of all, I mean, we've talked about the depth of this team and at offensive line, and it's one of the best in the league. And I think that much is proven out true just this last week, to be honest. I'm thinking that Tyler Smith plays. I'm thinking, that he's dealing with tendonitis and that he's kind of dealt with on and off, and they're just kind of managing it from what it sounds like, according to Brian Broaddus. So it'll, if that's the case, then I imagine he plays. If you lose anyone else at this point, you're really testing the theory of exactly how much depth you've got, right? But I think that at this point, like if you can get by with the guys that you've got out there right now and not manage to lose also Tyler Smith, I think you saw last week that was an effective group. They may have a little bit of a tougher obstacle this week with Williams on the inside, but I think that it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
The good news is you have guys, at least in the right side, right, between Terrence Steele, Bass, and Hoffman. Even if Tyler Smith were to miss this game, you feel pretty good about the right side. Again, you've got backup offensive linemen in there, but these guys, at least with Bass and Hoffman, they played a lot of snaps. So maybe you just try to help out the left side some more. You mentioned that Tyler Smith, it seems like the plan is to just kind of keep him on ice until the game starts. But at left tackle, it sure seems like Nathan Thomas is going to get his first career start. Tyler Guyton dealing with that concussion, did not practice on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday. You usually need to get a full practice in before you're cleared. And I would expect the Cowboys to be cautious here. So that means Thomas is going to get a start. And honestly, I'm fired up. Like, this is somebody that the Cowboys clearly like. I'm not saying they like him more than Guyton, but it's somebody that they, I think, have a long-term plan for. I want to see how he looks in this game.
I mean, it's pretty crazy when you're talking about the fact that you've got 3 offensive linemen down and you're excited to see all three of their backups, right?
Well,
And that,
relatively excited. Like you did, I was writing about this for the Landry Hat on Thursday, where this isn't a Chaz Green situation where you're
no.
just crossing your fingers on every snap. It's like you want to see how these guys can develop, and can they take the next step? This is not. They could really struggle on Sunday, but this is not a dire situation like it would have been in other years.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a situation where you're excited. Like you feel like you've got not only a strong backup, but a guy that you're potentially, grooming for a starting spot pretty soon. So you want to see Nathan Thomas out there. And as far as the other guys, Bass and Hoffman, those are guys that at one point, at least in Hoffman's case, you've had penciled in as a starter at certain points. And Bass is a guy that you've always felt like was a starter level backup in the NFL, right? Like, so you happen to have injuries at the three spots of the three guys that you feel the most comfortable with. And I think even saying that is we felt that level of comfort with this offensive line even before we knew about how Nate Thomas had grown this offseason. So I think adding a competent backup at the tackle position really just completes the set. And I think, unfortunately for us, we've got to see all three of them play this weekend, but fortunately for us, we have all three, and that we've got solid guys who can come in and hopefully play good football.
All right. So what do the Cowboys do on offense? Do you think it's more short passes in this game? Do we see kind of the similar game plan that we saw last week against the Jets? One of the things that I'm curious to see is Sauce Gardner, their all-pro cornerback. He's been following number one receivers, and honestly, he's done a pretty good job against Mike Evans and DK Metcalf. If we see Sauce on Pickens, how do the Cowboys generate offense with CeeDee Lamb being out and also Kavontae Turpin, who's now dealing with an ankle injury?
Yeah, it's a real good question because I do think that the combination of Williams inside at defensive tackle and Sauce Gardner outside, it could cause the Cowboys problems because, part of what's made the offense kind of run is the attention that wide receiver one has gotten, multiple people having, cloud coverage, double coverage, bracket coverage. It expends a lot of resources to cover these guys. But if they could just put Sauce Gardner on George Pickens and just shut him down, then it really kind of disrupts that. And then you add in the fact that you've got Williams inside a defensive tackle, potentially disrupting the run game. It could cause a lot more issues because of that specific matchup than you've had in these last few weeks, especially with like we talked about this backup offensive line group. So it'll be interesting to see how they can all sort that out.
I'm a little nervous about Aaron Glenn just blitzing a lot. Now, Dak handles the blitz very well, but that's usually with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens not being covered by an all-pro corner. So, you don't have Turpin who can beat somebody with speed or after the catch. It's just gonna be a lot of Jalen Tolbert, make sure that you're in the right spot, or Ryan Flournoy, make sure you're in the right spot. And I think they can win that way, but I think it's going to be more high variance than what we're used to. I just won't be surprised if this is a game where the Cowboys have 13 points going into the fourth quarter and we're wondering what happened to this great offense that we saw a week ago.
Yeah, I could see that just because, again, it does feel like there is a potential path for this Jets defense to disrupt things a little bit. I also won't be shocked if this Cowboys offense continues to click and finds ways to move around these guys because they're not the Jets defense that we've seen of previous years.
They're not
by any stretch, but I think that they have obviously talented at key spots that could cause the Cowboys problems. But if they're able to figure that out, if they're able to shake Pickens loose free, if they're able to get Williams going in the run game and attacking this Jets edge defender group, they should still be able to generate offense, even with Jalen Tolbert as your wide receiver too.
And that's the key. It's going to be able to run the ball. Will McDonald is one of their starting defensive ends. He's 245 pounds, not a run defender, designated pass rusher. Jermaine Johnson, who is one of the better run defenders, he's not likely to play in this one. You're going to need to be able to run the ball on the edges. And we should mention Jaden Blue is expected to play to make his first NFL appearance. Maybe we see more runs with Jaden Blue outside in some wide zone to try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and Williams is a guy to mention here too because I think he's going to be valuable in a lot of the blitz stuff that you talked about. He's a very heady player. He's going to be an outlet guy, so he could be your hot read. He could also be a guy who's going to help Dak kind of sort through the mess and hopefully take one of those guys out.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense because we have to. How can they stop this Jets running game, which has been very, very good to start the year? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood feel like the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of your home, whether it's that sports bar that's dedicated to your team's fan base, or the spot with the best wings in town on game day, or maybe that beloved chain that's been rooted in your community for years. Like for me, it's my Dairy Queen. We have a Dairy Queen that's like 2 miles from my house. It's just where everybody meets up. It's a lot of fun. These businesses are what bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the entire neighborhood thrives. There are a lot of great places that use Square, including in Dallas, Firehouse Cafe, one of my favorite. They've got the absolute best coffee. Go check them out if you're local in Dallas. Again, Square brings these businesses and these communities together. So take some time. Go visit your favorite businesses. Use Square. You'll be happy that you did it. Go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, one last time, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put the points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is the blocked extra point that the Cowboys had against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Blocked by Wanye Thomas, returned back for 2 points for Marquise Bell. That was a 3-point swing. And you look at it now in a game that was tied, obviously a big play, kind of gave the Cowboys some momentum. And in a game that was going to be 14-0, all of a sudden was 13-3 or 13-2. The Cowboys scored a touchdown. They got a 2-point conversion. Now you have a 13-10 game. The Cowboys were right in it. That keeps our fans moving forward. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys defense, which has been not very good to start the year. How do they get off the field against this Jets offense that really only wants to run the football?
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like obviously the Cowboys defense has been terrible, and we've been very vocal about the fact that they've been playing too much zone coverage and they need to play more man coverage. And now you're playing Justin Fields, who frankly is just absolutely terrible against the zone coverage, and you probably need to play a lot of zone coverage. We've been talking about how we feel like the Cowboys need to blitz more and to get more pressure on the quarterback. And one of the worst things you can do is blitz Justin Fields because he's so valuable, so explosive with his legs. And then obviously just based on the numbers is throwing the ball over people's heads on blitzing situations that they do still have Garrett Wilson on the outside. So I think that they are a team that is going to want to run the football. I mean, that's kind of how they're moving the ball. And it's not even necessarily traditionally. I think Breece Hall has had an okay year so far. He's been about average. He still isn't quite the explosive playmaker that we saw.
He does look better than he did last year, but it's not
for
quite
sure
the same we saw as a rookie. Yes,
for sure. And I think the reason the run game is so dangerous and has been so productive is because of Fields scrambling.
Yeah.
Specifically, like he's been gashing teams when they're dropping into man coverage, and I think honestly, like half of their drop back plan is just getting positive plays with Fields' legs in man coverage. So I think the first thing you have to do is prepare for Fields the runner, and I think he kind of is halfway between. I talked about this the other day. I think he's kind of halfway between Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts in some ways. He's just not the same kind of tackle breaker that Jalen Hurts is. But he's explosive immediately once he makes a decision to run the football. He's going to pick up 4 or 5 yards just by accelerating quickly, moving forward. So Cowboys need to be quick to pull the trigger to come down or green dog him or it's put somebody on him specifically to make sure that he's not just dropping back to get a bunch of bodies, 10 or 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, and for him only to score through the front of the pocket and get 5 or 6 yards easy.
And this is one of the teams that's going to run on almost every first down. And honestly, I don't blame them, right? When your drop back passing game isn't great, the best way to help a quarterback who's still developing is to try to get into second and short, third and short. And honestly, they do a pretty good job of doing that. Where they've really struggled, Landon, is they are one of the league leaders in penalties. And they've had, I think last week they had 4 pre-snap penalties. They're just not a team that is designed to be able to win when they get behind the chain. So that's how you win this game, is you blitz on first down and you try to stuff Hall in the backfield. Now it's 2nd and 12, and now they're passing. If you can kind of do that and keep, just make it where they have to be in some obvious passing situations, I actually think Dallas will be okay in this one.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it's, they're the Cowboys. This is the one offense that you feel like, even with the Cowboys and all their flaws, the way that they're flawed might actually help you in some ways more than other ways, or at least your flaws are, maybe it's a better way to say it, is your flaws aren't going to be as easily exposed, right? So yes. I think they do have like I said, they do have an incredible pass catcher on the outside at Wilson, and Fields does have the ability to throw the ball over the top of you. So the Cowboys have to be as ready as they are capable.
And they will play action, and they'll roll out Fields. And honestly, that's how they've got a couple of their big touchdowns, is some of these long over routes where Fields extends a little bit and then throws it. That's how you win. But I will say the Cowboys have a big advantage, which I can't believe I'm saying this. Their defensive line against the Jets' interior offensive line. They've had some injuries. Their best interior offensive lineman, honestly, their best offensive lineman, Elijah Vera Tucker, he's out for the year.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be Oso Digizua, Kenny Clark, and revenge game for Solomon Thomas, maybe.
And for White Cotton too, right? Just overall. I mean, I think inside is where you're going to need to control things. And I think that would have been the case even if you didn't have an advantage there anyways, because you've got to find a way to take the efficiency out of their under the center pass run game, right? Because if you can stop the run game, you can do what you just talked about, right? Is get them off schedule, behind the chains, force them into passing situations, and then you deal with the Fields problem of scrambling and force the issue, try to come after him, contain him in the pocket, all the kind of rules that you would have for those kind of scrambling quarterbacks, you're going to have to put into play on third downs, and then worry about the threat of throwing down the field as well.
This is a big game for the Cowboys edge rushers, because the Jets run a ton of wide zone. So this is where I think this is a big Jadeveon Clowney game, because honestly, I think he's probably your best run defender. He's been here for 2 weeks. He's probably your best run defender. I don't know if this is a Sam Williams game, because you've got to be so disciplined at holding up your blocks and not opening up a lane and not trying to dive inside to get a pass rush. Like it's going to be up to these edge rushers to hold at the point of attack to make sure that, they can let the linebackers get in there and make the tackles.
Yeah, I mean the bigger body guys, right? Like maybe you see a little bit more Nealand, maybe you see, just like you said, Clowney, and just kind of holding up at the edge, and the key thing too with wide zone stuff is, like we just talked about, being able to reach the 3 technique, being able to block the interior, because the interior of the defensive lines can really blow up those plays. That's where you want to see Odigizua, or you want to see Clark, you want to see Thomas disrupting in the middle and seeing if they can blow those plays up on first down, get them into 2nd and 12, see how they respond to stuff like that.
Yeah, and then don't let anybody else besides Garrett Wilson beat you. Like Garrett Wilson's going to make his plays. You're going to live with it. He's going to make spectacular catches. This can't be a big Alan Lazard game or Mason Taylor, or it can't be
Arian Smith
making plays down the field if he just finally decides to catch a ball. Like you can't let the others be the ones to beat you in this game. If it's Garrett Wilson, it's Garrett Wilson. But that's the big thing. If you can take away Garrett Wilson, or if you can limit him, you can limit the Justin Fields scrambles. You're probably going to hold the Jets to under 24 points, and that should give you a relatively good chance to win this one.
Yeah, you just got to find a way to, play your game on offense. And if you can, then the Cowboys defense should be able to hold the Jets offense to the points you need to win the game.
We'll see. Let's give our predictions for this Week 5 matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Landon, let's make predictions for this Week 5 matchup between the Cowboys and Jets. Who do you got?
I'm picking the Cowboys. I mean, I think it's a road game, but the Cowboys have proven that they can run the ball on the road a little bit. I'm hoping that you would get a Tyler Smith this week, and then I think with Nate Thomas, they should be able to block up what is at times an undersized front of the Jets, especially on the outside. They're going to have a handful with Quinnen Williams, but I think that they should be able to deal with that as long as Tyler Smith is playing. And I think that, it's about a consistency thing. I just trust the Cowboys offense more than I certainly trust the Jets offense to be able to consistently score points, even against the Cowboys defense, just because the Jets problems often are self-inflicted. Right. And so you're not only do they have talent and execution issues, they also have, penalty problems that they cause themselves. So, I'll pick the Cowboys to win. I'm going to say, I think it actually is kind of a high scoring event a little bit, just because the Cowboys defense can't stop anyone and the Cowboys offense will score. So I'm going to say 31-27.
I mean, everything says that this should be a game the Cowboys win, right? Like the Jets are played in Miami on Monday Night Football in a physical game. They probably didn't get home till early Tuesday morning. They're beat up. They're 0-4. The vibes don't feel great. But on the other side, we should also mention, like, the Cowboys have the better quarterback. And 9 times out of 10, the team that has the better quarterback usually wins these games. But there's also part of me that's like, Cowboys are going to play a road 1:00 Eastern game, which has been kind of a bugaboo for them over the last couple of years, right? They're coming off this weirdly emotional overtime game that was a tie, and they're beat up. Everything just in my bones thinks this is going to be an ugly game where it's like, 13-13 going into the last 5 minutes. Well, actually, if the Cowboys held the Jets to 13, I'd be so happy. Well, yeah. I mean, they held them to 13 points going into the fourth quarter. I'd be stoked. I'll pick the Cowboys. This is probably the curse, but I don't think it's going to be a pretty game at all. I think this is going to be a rock fight.
Yeah, you know what? I don't disagree with that generally. I think this is going to be one of those that you're right. Like I don't know about 13-13, but I would say like it's going to be all the scoring is going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the score doubles in the fourth quarter, if that makes sense, right? Like whatever it like 21, it's like 21-17 going into the fourth quarter, and then suddenly ends up 42, whatever. Because I do think that they're going to, fight it out early on. And there's probably going to be a lot of penalties like we talked about, especially depending on who calls the game. But I think that, ultimately in the fourth quarter, things will probably bust open, because that's kind of what we've seen a lot of these last few games.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes me the most nervous, it's honestly not the offensive line. Like I trust the backups they have. And if you have Tyler Smith in the game with Terrence Steele, with Hoffman, at least you've got some veterans combined with a couple young guys. Like I think they'll be okay. I think Ferguson will have a good game because of the linebacker situation. Their best linebacker, Quincy Williams, he's out this game. I think Pickens will make enough plays where it kind of neutralizes Sauce a little bit. It's just, where did they get the other production from? Who's the other receiver that steps up? Who's the guy that creates a 30-yard chunk play to get you into field goal position? Like, I just don't know. Last week it was Tolbert. Can he do it again? They're certainly going to be relying on him.
Can it be Brevin Spanford? Can it be someone new? Can it be Blue? Blue's coming in, and that's that's something that could be in the cards for a guy like that, right? He can also fumble. Yeah.
Can you imagine if he fumbles in this first game? It's going to be, we're not going to see him until Thanksgiving again.
Definitely don't watch the squad show after that after that happens. If you guys are but you should definitely watch the squad show.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that's the thing that makes me nervous. I actually think the Cowboys defense will be okay here. Oh man,
this is the one game. I think you're not. I understand it. It's like you could throw up in your mouth even saying that phrase that the Cowboys defense could be okay. I think this is the one game that if they have a solid plan for how to handle Justin Fields scrambling, that they could be okay. Because
I do think Matt Eberflus, like he talked about, he knows him probably better than anybody else because he's had him. He also had Caleb Williams, so that didn't work out super well.
Yeah,
but this offense is very similar to what the Bears ran when they had Justin Fields.
Yeah. So I think, this is something that he should be familiar with, that he should have a plan. I mean, we've said that before though, as well. And we didn't get even some basic problems solved on this defense, but I think, like I said, the Cowboys' glaring weaknesses and the problems that they're having that are causing such terrible defense, they aren't going to stick out as much against this style of offense, because this style of offense struggles against zone coverage. It's, it thrives when it's blitzed. That kind of matches up with two of your problems of what you're lacking.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you right back here on Sunday night.